Hello, and welcome to the latest installment of the Aras Innovator demo series. Today we're going to have an Aras Innovator overview. The demo series runs for 30 minutes and features all demo with no sales pitch. Each installment showcases a different capability of the Aras platform. During the webinar, everyone is on global mute. If you have any questions, please submit them in the questions panel within GoToWebinar, and we'll answer as many as possible in our Q&A session at the end. This demo is being recorded, and when the recording is available, you'll receive an email with the link so you can share it with your colleagues or review it again for reference. We have on the line today Gary Wilmot, Solutions Consultant at Aras. Gary, take it away.
Thank you, Nicole. Thanks to everyone that's on the line. We appreciate you taking 30 minutes out of your busy day to be with us. The fact that you've done so indicates you have an interest in the topic we're presenting, and even more so, you most likely face some challenges that you're looking to solutions for. And we know from experience, we have a wide range of backgrounds and organizations in our audience. But despite that, despite the variety, it's likely that we face many common situations, scenarios, and challenges, a common reality, if you will. So let's set the stage by just talking about that very briefly. The reality is that today's PLM systems are capable of representing the most complex up-to-date designs. And in fact, SimData, we'll be referring to some survey information they've done, puts it this way, that terabyte-sized models, product data, and so on are not at all uncommon. So the challenge of storing the data and getting it in seems to be fairly well met, but there are challenges remaining. We're probably all familiar with the study that's been done that says, pick a number, anywhere from 30%, 50% of an engineer, designers, or anyone in your organization's time is spent searching for information before they can get to work, information they need in order to accomplish their work. And that doesn't even include rework time in the situations where all that time you spend searching and finding data, it turns out it wasn't the right version. So clearly we still have some challenges left. Even more sobering, don't take our word for it. SimData goes on to point out about all these huge data models. It says companies gather incredible amounts of data and then ignore most of it. If you see the highlight here down towards the bottom, all this digital information, and we know you're obsessively collecting it. All of our organizations and companies we deal with are fixated on this. But the fact is, much of it is useless. Why? Well, we're going to talk about that and how we can overcome that. Clearly, there's a challenge that needs to be met, and as is put very well by John Sperling, the Senior VP here of Product Management, the focus of Aras Innovator all along and emphasized in the latest release for Aras Innovator 12 is to make complicated things easier, make us all more productive. So let's dive into a demonstration and see how Aras Innovator helps us to do just that. And as we start the demonstration, I'd like to start with a question. If you'll use your imagination, what would be the easiest way for you to access all of the data you need to accomplish something specifically you're assigned to or working on, and be ensured that it's up to date, relevant, and accurate? Well, of course, the first thing that might come to mind is a simple, powerful search capability, and we're certainly going to touch on that today. But wouldn't it be even better if it was just delivered automatically to you and you didn't have to search at all? Let's see a scenario that makes that happen. I'm going to log in right from scratch as a typical Aras Innovator user. His name is Mike. Aras Innovator can be configured to open up or go directly to any type of information that's of interest to a user. Mike has his start page set up to a very important view into Innovator. These are all the current tasks or activities that are assigned to Mike. So immediately he sees what's on his plate. And this may look somewhat like email, but it's much more powerful than that because this is real live data. It's sortable by things like start date or due dates and types of projects and so on. And you'll notice here we're looking at what is, so to speak, ticking on the clock for Mike. So this is the active ones, but we're not limited to that. Mike could take a look at things coming down the pipe. For example, he may need to set a schedule upcoming. So when is he going to have some time? When is he likely to be really busy? He can look at what's coming. Here's another interesting scenario. Have you ever found yourself, when we talk about thinking about accessing information that's previously been stored in a system, you ever found yourself looking at something that you're dealing with and saying, this looks familiar. I worked on something like this a year and a half ago. And I don't know if you're like me, sometimes it's easier to remember when you did something than the specific details like a part number or a project number. I remember last winter I was working on something. Mike can search through any of his activities that he's completed in the past, search, filter, and sort, and go right to data about this particular model number without having to remember all the details. It's just there. So let's go back to our day-to-day work and actually have Mike accomplish something. So here we can see notifications, which are great, but that's just part of the story. I know I have to work on something, but I need to know more about this assignment. For example, where did this come from and where is it going once Mike works on it and completes and signs off on his activities? By simply clicking, I can see a graphical workflow map, and I can see where it's currently sitting, where I sit in the process, where it's been, where it could go. There are optional paths. And I can also click here and see a sign-off audit trail of who else has worked on this previously or touched it before me. We also talked about being able to just have the information delivered to me. I have to work on an ECO. Certainly I can open the ECO and I can see information about what it's all about, but eventually I'm going to need to access information and data to work on it. So simply by clicking on this link, Mike can see the ECO item itself. Think of the top area here as a cover page for this, and even more important and interesting, certainly these contain, as you're familiar with PLM systems, this form can contain properties, attributes, metadata, whichever you want to term it. And it's certainly configurable by you to have all of the different properties exposed that you want, searchable, and so on. But down here, we see that there's actually live data that's delivered as part of this ECO. We see that there is a BOM list, part numbers, and not just the affected parts, that's what we're showing here, but also any relevant supporting documents like CAD documents or Office documents, all presented right here to Mike, all live. Also, notice that the links are revision specific. So if we're making a change, it's likely that we're going to be making a new revision of the existing model. So here you say we have a link to the current revision A and the upcoming new revision B. So I can access either one just by clicking, and I don't have to worry about which revision am I looking at. So let's open up the item form again, as you would expect. The form has properties, and we can verify we're looking at the correct version of this, but it's also got a wealth of information about this particular part, which is a subassembly called an extruder. It includes some material extrusion capability and cooling fans. So likely, since it's an assembly, one of the things we might want to see is what are the child components of this revision and what is their current revision and lifecycle state. And that's right here. If I want to see it in more of a structured environment and be able to drill down into this and even filter and drill down into subassemblies, open up any of these links live. And also, we won't have time to dive in, but we have built in the capability for not just this particular iteration or version of a BOM, but we can do effectivity, configuration, and so right from the form here. And if we want to see a readable report, we can certainly do that. So I'll just click here, and this can be formatted and printed, exported in any way that makes sense to you. But really, the BOM itself is just a part of the story. there's a lot more relevant information that we may need to access for various purposes. Let's talk about 3 different scenarios. I may need to access information like perhaps Office documents in order to edit or even create new documents and access those, make changes, create and attach, which I can do very easily here. I can download these files, I can open them up in Microsoft Office and be on my way. But there's other scenarios when I don't really need to edit things. I just need to refer to them or access the information contained in them. And a third scenario may be where I need to access the information and then contribute in the form of a comment in a collaborative environment. So rather than forcing you to go ahead and open a native document in the authoring tool just to access it, Aras Innovator gives you access to the information right here on the form, aggregated together all of this particular information. And again, if I don't need to edit it, if I just need to view it, I just click here, and here I have a viewable, guaranteed to be the correct revision and version. I have simple tools. If I want to perhaps look at marking this up, perhaps there's a typo here I run across, I want to highlight that to somebody, put a red line on it, I can certainly do that. And I can also collaborate with others. So what we've looked at here is accessing, reading the information for my own purposes. I can search through the document as well, and I can also collaborate with others. By clicking on this pane, again, never leaving that part form, I see a discussion thread that led up to where our ECO is. We'll talk a little bit more about background here, but it's very easy for me to see that this all got started because we encountered an overheating problem and we need to do something about it. So it was determined that we need to make a change, swap out the fans, and here I can see others' comments, red lines, markups, and so on, and I can contribute to either the overall discussion or discussion about this document. So I might say about the document itself, fix a typo here. And when I do that, this becomes part of the discussion. Now, unlike other tools like Slack, for example, this is built right into the Innovator platform, and it follows permissions strictly, so that even if someone is involved in a discussion, if they don't have permissions to view this particular model, they will not be able to see it in their discussion thread. So that's a simple Office document. Of course, CAD documents are another widely used type of information. Here I can go ahead and look at a 2D drawing, and I can even, since this is a new revision, we can take a look and see perhaps what changes have been made from this revision by comparing it with the previous one. And anything that's changed, I can see highlighted in red. So that's a quick visual compare of the differences. And of course, we also have the ability to look at complex 3D models from a native CAD tool without ever accessing the tool and opening it up. So here you can see I have the ability to look at the 3D model in various shaded or outline forms. I can do things that you might expect, like an exploded view. I can also do what we might call a visual search. Notice on the left, I have the actual model structure that came out of the CAD system. If I need to click on something like an item here, I can see exactly what that item or part number is. I can isolate it, view it, and even open it directly from here without ever going out and having to search and knowing again that it's exactly what I need. So certainly Office documents, CAD documents, 2D, 3D, all very accessible, all very important, delivered right to me to use in the context that makes sense to me. There's also a wide variety of other information besides just these documents. For example, we might have manufacturer information. Now this is a part we happen to build, but if it was a purchase part, you can track manufacturing information. Very interesting here is I can track any changes that might have been made. Here's the ECO we're working on, but there were previous processes that were affecting this design as well, and we can simply click and access these anytime we want. So by clicking through the tabs, I can see a lot of relevant information, and you are free to configure your items to contain the type of information grouped on any type of tab order you want. But it's also very powerful to be able to look at this all in one. When we talk about a product structure, a digital twin, here we start to see a simple example of that, where we can see in one view all of the product information related to this particular item. And you see, again, everything is version revision specific. We have the parts contained in this BOM, and we also have the supporting documents, all live, accessible here. I don't have to open them up in order to drill down. For example, I can drill down into this subassembly. I can take a look at some of its individual parts. Remember we talked about opening up and seeing manufacturing information? This is a purchase part. Right from here, if I'm working in sourcing or procurement, I can go right to the up-to-date information about this particular manufacturer and their part numbers that we're sourcing here. So quite a few things we can do with that. This is a subassembly, and it happens to be used in another top-level product, and that's easy to see by just clicking on a where used, and I can see, as I would expect, some parent assemblies, but also anywhere else that this is touched within the system. So this really talks about the platform of the Aras PLM system that allows us to leverage the same data throughout the system to do things like a project, a process plan, a technical document, all referring to the same single source of truth. So at this point, we've been able to glean a large amount of information, query it, edit it, collaborate, comment on it. The goal there, of course, is to be able to finish our work. So for sake of time, let's go ahead and have Mike complete his work. One thing we've done for sake of time in the demo is we have done some changes to the structure in advance, and I can easily see this by going ahead and taking a look at a red line view of the BOM. So this immediately goes out, compares what's different from what I'm working on now to the previous revision. And here I see that we've replaced one part number with another. We put a better fan in there, and we've taken out an item here. So Mike has finished his tasks, and now it's time to signify that he's done. So we can go back to the ECO form, and we can go ahead and allow Mike to sign off either from here or right from his in basket. He has options here to complete it here, or if we're looking at the ECO, you don't even have to leave. One other thing I want to do before we do that is let's go back to the item, because we're talking about being able to access this data quickly and easily. So this may be something I need to refer to later, even though I'm done with it now. I may need to come back to it. So let's just make it really easily accessible. I'm going to bookmark the part itself. And I'll add that to my items, which will open up in a minute. So now that I've done that and finished with it, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Here I can see that the workflow process can be easily refined. Each step can have multiple steps that Mike has to signify that he is completed on. He can also have the option to close this out, kick it back, give it to someone else, or submit it to a formal review. For sake of time, what we're going to do here is just sign off and close this particular ECO task. That signifies that Mike is now done, and this will now be added to the audit trail. As you can see, it automatically updates. If I was to go back now, down the road, I know I worked on something. Oh yeah, I put that on my bookmarks, so I don't even need to go search. I can go ahead to my discussions. This is my global overall discussion page, which aggregates all of the discussions that I'm involved in. Before, you saw me access these in context of an item, which is a very powerful way to get right to the relevant information. But when I bookmark something here, I can now come and open that up directly without having to go and search. The reason I want to bring it back up is that I want to point out the Changes tab now shows that this ECO we're working on is completed because I completed it, and the life cycle has been set to released for the part as well. I can query. When we talk about life cycles are very powerful, configurable. Here's a quick overview of a typical part life cycle. It can go from preliminary or work in progress to in review. It could be released, and then once it's released at a certain revision, you can control what happens to that and subsequent revisions as they are created. And this all works in conjunction with a permission model. If I want to do a quick kind of overview of what's happened to this, I'm at revision B, but I can easily go and open up revision A, and it will be locked down to the state that it was before we made the change and created revision B. So this information is always accessible. If you look closely here and we do a view, we've made it kind of obvious. That's revision A with the black fans. We swapped them out, and I can easily see visually exactly what happened. I want to go back to that Changes tab, and I want to point out not only ECOs, but also things such as other processes like problem reports are included here. So here we'll talk about a platform that allows us to take not just simple ECOs or approval notices, but take more complex things like a problem report. Using our quality management capabilities, we can see all the information about the item that's impacted by the problem report is still accessible here. I won't take the time to re-click on those because you've seen them multiple times already. But what I will do is on the problem report, query it. I see it has a parent item, a cap. So this allows us to aggregate together quality information in a proactive form. As you might see down here, we have tabs that relate to the 8D methodology of corrective actions. So here I can see my problem report, but I can go on and initiate containment actions. Very importantly here, I could go ahead and create a root cause analysis and be able to track this and add this on as part of the process. And to close the loop, if you look here, you'll see that part of the corrective or preventative action was the ECO. So this was not an ECO in a vacuum. It was part of an overall plan. And also to get ahead of this for proactive type of quality planning, we can capture this information and we can track this as part of a DFMEA or PFMEA. All of this built on the same platform, all of this relating to exactly the items we've been talking about and kept up to date as they are going through their life cycle. We've talked about accessing information. Let's talk about quickly in the few minutes we have remaining. We've talked a lot about that specific ECO, but very important as you implement a system like Innovator in your overall organization is keeping track of processes as a whole. So here I can run a report on any or all of the ECOs that are currently in my system. I can filter or search on. I can filter by status. So here I see what still needs to be worked on, what's released, whether they're falling in the right dates or not. And you know, I can look at this, and I would be remiss if we did this whole demo about accessing information and it didn't do a single search. But you can see I could do a lot of relevant work and gathering information without even searching anything. But we certainly make this easy for you to do. So here I see something in this report, a new cover option. That sounds interesting, but I don't really know what it's about. Let's use Aras Innovator's global enterprise search to simply enter a Google-like search. So I don't have to be very specific when I start, but we're going to get a lot of information with a broad search like this. But enterprise search allows us to query the specific type of information we want. So maybe I'm interested in documents, maybe I'm interested in part items. I can go ahead and filter. Here we see we have a new product that now includes the cover on our printer. Sure enough, I can go right to it. I know it's the current version. I can see visually that this is the option with the cover. And again, building that digital thread throughout this whole platform, if I was to do a where used on the overall product, I can see a change process. It's also part of an overall project, and that makes sense. Project was probably initiated in order to create this new model. So right from the model itself, I can go and see information about the project that initiated it. If it's in progress, I can see a status indicator. I can open up the work breakdown structure, and here I can see the different phases and stages about this particular product design project. And again, I have live links right back to that part or any type of auxiliary information. It's not limited to a part. It could be part, as that project is, we use that part information to create a technical document. Could be an assembly instruction, could be a catalog instruction, but I'm referencing that same single source of truth to get my data for this particular tech doc. And if I go back to the project, I might have a process plan for that. So different organizations, different departments leveraging this same information. If you look here, our process plan actually uses the same technology to create the structured document as our technical document. So this is all leveraging the services in the platform, going back to that single source of truth, the item, and building information about it. We won't have time to dive into this, but this is an area where a manufacturing person can take an existing E-BOM and create an M-BOM from it simply by dragging and dropping parts into an M-BOM structure and creating things like phantoms and so on. So we're running up against the end of our time limit here. This has been a very quick, high-level whirlwind tour, but hopefully you've seen how this information can be easily not just stored, but easily accessed confidently, that it's up-to-date, relevant information. I can traverse its way through it, and I can really build up a useful digital model, digital twin, digital thread that is useful and easily accessible and understandable by many inside my organization. So at this, I will turn it back over to Nicole for any questions that we may have.
Thank you, Gary. Make sure to enter in any questions you have into the questions panel. We have a few submitted questions, so let's get into some of those now. Does it require any additional installation to view the CAD models in different views?
So the viewing of the CAD models from various native formats is accessible directly through, or it's attainable by using a component called a conversion server that we supply. If you're a subscriber, that is something that's supplied. That does require a separate installation, one-time installation for the conversion server, configure it to, match the type of CAD systems and graphics you're using, and from then on it's automatic. Once you store using our CAD connectors or partner CAD connectors directly from the CAD authoring tool, that 2D and 3D generation is transparent, it's automatic, and it can be instantaneous.
All right. You showed viewing of 3D CAD models. How do you import the native CAD files?
Right. So as I kind of alluded to in that previous comment, we have, through our partners, available CAD connectors, which work right inside the UI of the native CAD tool for all the major MCAD and ECAD platforms. And once those, you would install and implement those as part of your overall implementation, then it's just simply a matter, literally, of clicking a button or a couple of buttons on the CAD tool side, and that data gets automatically stored in and tracked in Aras Innovator.
Are CAD files able to be downloaded in neutral formats, STEP, IGES, for example?
Yes, the conversion server can not only create viewables for you automatically, it can provide various neutral formats as well. So that can be automated, or it can be a simple, if you only need it occasionally, you could simply create the neutral files yourself and attach those as files to the part, as you saw, just as easily as we are able to attach Office documents or the CAD documents themselves. So easily doable.
All right, let's take a break from some of the CAD questions. We're running over time, so I'm just going to do two more. Is everything you showed in the demo available in the open version of Innovator?
Good question. Those of you that are new to Aras, the great majority of what you saw me do functionality-wise is available freely for download. Let me differentiate what isn't available in the open free version, and let me set the background very quickly. The main reason that functionality or application requires you to be a subscriber in order to access it is if it utilizes third-party technology that we license. So we have to recoup the cost for that. So those are available only to the subscriber. What you saw in the demo today mostly had to do with the viewing and visual collaboration. That uses Oops technology and PDF-Tron technology that we license. So that would require a subscription. Basically, pretty much everything else you saw, though, is available in the open version. So feel free to go to aras.com and download it and start kicking around with it.
All right, let's take one more here. There is news recently of acquisitions that Aras has made. How do those fit into the Aras platform?
Yes, so we've acquired some outside technology in the form of analysis, data management, and automation and MRO. So certainly beyond the scope of what we could demo in a quick 30-minute demo. But as subscribers, that technology is immediately available to you, and it is in the process and moving along, in some cases, very close to being built right into the UI that you saw me use. But keep talking about platform. I can't stress that enough, that those applications and that underlying technology will be part of the very same platform you saw me use today. So it'll be accessible seamlessly in the very near future, and any new acquisitions we do going forward, same thing.
All right, thank you, Gary. And thank you, everyone, for your questions. For any we didn't answer, they will be addressed directly within the next few days. I'm going to leave you with our upcoming demo series topics. On September 26th, we will see a demonstration of dynamic 3D product navigation. And on October 10th, we will hear more on Aras Innovator, connecting simulation to the digital thread. You can register for upcoming demos and view any past demos at aras.com/demo series. We'd love for you to join the Aras community at community.aras.com. There you'll find blogs, community projects, and forums with a lot of great information. Be sure to connect with Aras on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, where we share the latest updates and news, product information, and more. Finally, don't miss ACE Europe this November. We'd love to see you there to answer your questions, get your feedback, and take the opportunity to network with the PLM community, the Aras team, our partners, and more. We thank you for joining us today and look forward to having you visit next time. Thank you and have a great day.